well, they didn't tell me that you got to be here a year before you can get your apprenticeship program. I thought, oh, crap. Now what do I do? So anyway, yeah, I waited a year, and I took my apprenticeship program. And just to give you an idea, it was 95 cents an hour at that time was big money to have an apprenticeship program. I left Chicago with a $2.80 job for 95 cents, but I said, okay, I'm in it. It's going to be a 5-year program, which I did, got through it, graduated, got my journeyman's card. I then continued to work on the road for Gishall. We made balancers for the government, for airplanes, you name it, the automotive. And I was traveling on the road for about 3 years and single at the time, so it didn't bother me. And I had the idea that I decided when I met my wife that, or my girlfriend at that time, I guess it was. But anyway, I left January and got back in July before I got married. And I said, I don't think this is going to work, people. I don't think this is going to work. She agreed. So at that time, I started looking around, and I found a welding shop out here, which was Yolks Machine. I came out here and worked with Charlie for 2 weeks. I wanted to see what kind of business he had, what we could do, and where I'm at. I had a lathe and a mill in Madison, so I was doing a little business on my own. And I thought, well, this isn't too bad. I think it'll be a good position. So in November of 1970, I left and came out here. I had only one employee, and that was my wife, and an older gentleman by the name of Art Sweezel. We started cannon factory. There were 2 cannon factories, I swear to God, in every town around here, in every little town. So from that, we did a lot of that, picked up machining, did more machining, which was my background, learned how to weld, which I didn't know at that time. So from that, we started moving on, and we did a ton of work for the cannon factories and the farmers and you name it. And a lot of people didn't really know my name because it was EK Machine, and that was my nickname, and it's still my name today, is EK. A lot of people may not know who EK is, but then other people would say, who? No, that's EK. Oh, okay. But anyway, long story short, that's where we're at. So as we continued into the manufacturing end, we did start getting into some of the machining and a little more production. And in 1982, I bought the first CNC control machine, which was very few in the area. It wasn't hardly any in the area. I don't think there was any. I think we were the first ones to put CNC machining in. Through the next couple of 8 years, we continued to do it. We had 3,600 square feet when we started our business. As you can see, that is our building where we started in 1970. By 1990, we had done 2 additions to the old building, and we needed to keep moving. Business was great, going good. Manufacturing was still a main part of what we did. So we looked around, and in 1990, there was no property around in the Columbus area at the time that we could use big enough. I wanted a minimum of 5 acres. There was no 5-acre plot around. We checked around Sun Prairie, Beaver Dam, all around the area, and here Fall River had 8 acres for $1, and I thought, that's a pretty good bargain. I'll take that one. So anyway, we moved to Fall River in 1990, and that would be our plant number 1, which was 20,000 square feet at the time. Then we had plant number 2 and 3 we've added. This is number 2. This one here we just built here in 24. And also in 25, we bought a building in Madison to take care of a product that we didn't have room for out here. So we went from 3,600 to 519,000 square feet. in 55 years. We're coming up on our 55-year program. So that's a little bit of the history as we do it. I'll walk you through and to give you an example. From 90 to this year, we had 12 additions that we made plus 3 buildings from scratch. So with that, in 1990, when we moved up here, we had 20,000 square feet. That was our whole operation. We felt that was going to be a little bit small, but I said, I can't move too fast. So we went to work. And by 1993, we needed to add more CNC equipment. And in the old building we had 9 CNC machines in that 3,600 square feet. It was tight. We couldn't even run a forklift up and down the aisle. We had to carry the parts. And the parts were small enough that we could hold in our hands or you could pick up and carry. So that was a big difference. So that was in 1990. 93 we did the addition. You can see that here. So then you want to click the next one, Mike? Or Steve? So then 1999, we had an opportunity for Metalcraft or MEC to do platforms for their scissor lifts. So in 1999, we did an addition and we put in our first laser, our first robotic cell system, which was 4 platforms around and 1 big robot and a few other things. Well, lo and behold, 6 months later, they decided we're not going to do this anymore. We really got a problem now. We just built 16,000 square feet, and now we lost the job that we built it for. And I'll never forget, I went to my banker and I called him up and I said, Gary, I got a problem. He said, what's that? I said, I need to talk to you. He said, why? I said, well, I just need to talk to you. So Jeff, my son, and I went over and I said, well, we got some good news and bad news. And he says, well, why don't you give me the bad news? I said, no, give me the good news first. I said, the good news is I'm here. And he said, okay. He said, so what's the bad news? I said, you know all that money you lent us for that laser and the building and all that equipment? Yeah? I don't know how the hell we're going to pay for it. He looked at me and says, we'll work on it. We'll work on it. We'll give you a little space. We'll give you a little time. And with that, we did a fabulous job. We had the equipment. At that time, everybody was very busy. So our salesman, Danny Weinberger, he went out and we got work in there. It wasn't good work, but we got work in there to make the payments. So that was one of our first real bad recessions. And as we go down the line, I'll tell you, we've lived through 10 recessions already, which is tough to beat. And we had one that was very close to letting us get out of business. So that was in 1999. So in 2000, we bought Roscoe, a paint company in Hartford, because we were at that time needing to get a paint. We were having a lot of paint work done on the outside. So at that time, we ended up buying the company over in Hartford, out of bankruptcy. We stayed there for about 5 years and used that building because we had to take a lease on it right away, and he wanted a 5 years, so we had no choice. So that was in 2, and then in 2002, you can see that welding. That was our big welding cell that we had installed later on in the program. So, and then in 2003, in 2004, we don't show on here, but we did 2 additions before we did the 205 addition, which was we were going to bring our paint shop from Hartford over to here. So we built the building to handle the paint, and a new welding department at that point. The paint department, we designed and built our own wash tanks completely. Nobody would build them the way we wanted them. Everybody was building them out of mild steel. 3 years later, you repair them and start reworking them ready. We built our bottoms out of a 316 stainless, which is good for high acid area, and the tops is stainless. If you've seen them today, you would not know they're 25 years old, and we have not replaced a tank yet, or fixed the tank in that. So those are some of the things that we were always doing to make it good quality and to be able to eliminate the process. So in 2005, we added to 46,000 square feet at that point. 2006, we received our first ISO 9000 certification, which is a quality system that was very popular at that time. We did not have that in our system at this point. So in 2006, Steve worked on getting that into our system, and we processed from there. 2007 was a great year. That's when we got into the Power Product Division, as we call it, Power Products. A gentleman came to us, was looking for somebody to do some fabrication. And with that, that's where we started in 2007 with the Power Products. Those products we couldn't bring here because they're a little bit too big. So to give you an example, our average one has is 55 by 14 by 20, or 14 feet high. So 3,000 horsepower engines under most of them, huge.
Gary, maybe if I could just add that what we do there is we take big backup generators, we build the fuel tanks that they sit on, and then we build the houses around it. So quite a bit different from what we did in the first 30 or so years of EK Machine. Within those buildings, there's electrical work, which was all new to us at this time. We did a lot of contracting of electrical. And then in the years just beyond 2009 is when we started hiring our own electricians. So as of today, we're up to about 22, 23 of our own electricians that are part of the EK team. And then we're contracting in anywhere from 10 to 25 on any given day, depending upon the workflow that's going through. So these Power Products units in the early years of 2007, they were going to banks and universities and wastewater treatment plants and grocery stores, where we likely would just build one for an application, maybe two if we were lucky. Fast forward to today, now our orders are 50 to 100 at a time of the same units. So just kind of show how that market has changed for us and has helped evolve EK.
Thank you, Steve, for filling in some of the information. Yeah, before we got into the Power Products, most of our parts that we did were for we used to do milking parlors of stainless steel. We did milking parlors for a company over in Waunakee. We did a ton of work for Case Implement. Their combines, I think we had about 30 or 40 parts just went into each combine. So, and most of these parts you could pick up in your hand and hold. Today, our weldments are monsters. It's just crazy. I don't know if we have one of the later ones with the platinums on them. I think we might have one later.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, we entered into 2012, and at that point we looked at the paint department was having a hard time keeping up. We had some problems with the older equipment. We went out and we bought a automatic unit for our paint system. When I say automatic, on each side we have 6 guns on each side that oscillate up and down. Top guns come down, bottom guns come up. These are all automatic, so we could eliminate the timely of somebody standing 8 to 10 hours a day painting a part. I don't know how they could do it. My arm would have fell off, I think, in the first week. But we put in that system, made it a lot better, a lot easier, better control. At that time, we also built into the paint department, we built a complete room around it, was insulated. We controlled temperature, moisture, and humidity to control the paint, because if you take a powder paint, if the powder gets wet, it gets lumpy. So when you spray it, then it looks like crap. And when you're looking at a roll 50 feet long, you can spot that gummy spot on the tank or on the conveyor enclosure side, and we have to replace that. So that's one thing we can do. And also in all these enclosures, when we build them, we can take our enclosure, and if somebody backs into the 5th panel, you give us the serial number, and we can make that panel, and I'll guarantee it'll fit into that position. And nobody else has been able to do that. You know, it's a process that we do. Quality is Steve. When I hired Steve about 20 years ago, he was my quality guy, and I could see when I talked to him, he left his job, and he actually came to work for me, I think for less than what he was making. I just told him, I said, you'll go a long ways here, so just hang on, I'll get you there. So now you can see that he fulfilled his part, and I did my part. But, you know, we had a great relationship. The crew that we have in all of our departments are just fantastic. They all bend over backwards, do whatever they got to do, but we do everything that we can for safety, whatever it is. You know, one of our mottos is go home safe every day. You know, that's important. So getting back to the 2013, we broke ground on plant number 2, which was a big move. We were going to come out of Columbus, and we built this plant, and we built 50,000 square feet. We had 60-ton cranes in the building, and we had 30 feet underneath of the crane hook to lift these up for when we put these together. That was in 2013. And in 2014, we did a lot of charity work. We did for the Habitat. We did that. And also in 2014, we got the Wisconsin Manufacturer of the Year Grand Award for Workforce Development, which is the state of Wisconsin. That was a huge, huge thing. So it was, again, the work of all the teams. Our team works together very, very tightly. Problems that come up, anything that comes up, we have a correction action that has to be done, and it has to be followed through. We're very, very tight. We're known for our quality. We're known for our delivery. And that is one of the main reasons we keep expanding at the pace we do. Every time we put up another part of a building, our 2 main customers are 3, like we build for Meta, Microsoft, and Google. You know, in a small town, less than 2,000 people, we have the 3 major companies that we build for. That's a feather in our hat, you know, and it's the reason why they come in. Quality's there, the delivery's there, and you know, what else more can you want? They have a lot of them out there, but you know, if you don't give them those 3 things, you're not going to be in business. And that's always been our that. Used to have my hat, used to say quality first, then party. I wanted it the other way, but they wouldn't let me do it. So that was in then. So in 2015, we celebrated with manufacturing in our building, and I believe Tony Evers was there. Yeah. So we did the 215 when we opened that building up, plant number 2, as we call it today. I do want to step back at one time. There was, in 2008, I believe it was in 2008, Oh, yeah. In 2008, we had started to build a new office building, which is in our plant number 1. We were about halfway done, and that's, everybody remembers, that's when the economy really took a bad crap on us. And so we had the building about halfway done, and I said to Steve and our group, and I said, what do we do? Do we finish the building, or we just leave it set? You leave it set, somebody's gonna say, oh, these guys are in trouble, these guys are in trouble. So we finished the building and fought through it and survived again. One more story of surviving as we go. 217. What was that? Oh, 217. We did an addition to the building number 2, plant 2. We put in what we call a lift. It's like a boat lift that they lift the big boats out of the water with. It's a 75-ton on wheels, so we could move the units out of the building and into the lot. Sometimes they weren't completely done. We were waiting for an engine or waiting for something, and we had to get them out of the building because we were limited at that point. So at that point, we were up to about 110,000 square feet on our building number 2. 2018, we updated the paint line with that automatic system that I mentioned earlier. So you can I don't know if you can see real good, but you can see the guns are here coming in. And what happens is this part passed through a laser area, and it would say turn off gun 1, turn off gun number 5, number 6, we don't need it, it's a small part. And that's was part of the automation, and it makes a big difference when you are not spraying away paint or powder in the paint system. So in 2019 is when we did the final addition into the 56,000 square feet, which brought our manufacturing up to about 230,000 square feet, and along with 10 acres. We also received an update on the ISO 9001-215 certification. With that, we received the update on the certification.
Maybe I could just mention here, Gary, there's a little bit of a theme that we need to stitch together here in 2006.